All right, gentlemen. I hope your brains are switched on, and I hope you've powdered your noses because we're going to discuss Pulp Fiction tonight. That is the latest nomination for a perfect movie, nominated by the late, great Zane, who is not with us tonight, but we assume since he nominated it that he is the one voting for its perfection. So we're going to chalk him up as an automatic yes, but since he's not here, let's just have a discussion about Pulp Fiction. I'll kick this thing off. My relationship with the movie is pretty bare bones. I went on a Quentin Tarantino kick probably 10 years ago, wanted to watch all of his movies. Yeah, everybody that likes movies has that moment in their movie man's journey where they're like, they figure out who Quentin Tarantino is, how unique his movies are, and you either love it or you hate it. But most people are like, if you're into movies, you find some sort of value in his filming style. And so I was on one of those kicks. I think I'd watched Django Unchained, and I just said, that was an awesome movie. And I like that there were like some slow, drawn out dialogue parts. I like the cinematography, how it like focused closely on certain things that I otherwise wouldn't notice. In Django, it's like when he's carving off like the froth of the beer in that one scene. I was like, that's an interesting thing to film. Or when like the blood sprays on the white flowers and it's like a close up of it. So like I was like, this is kind of cool. And so then I've heard the name Tarantino thrown around a few times. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start with Reservoir Dogs. I'm going to go through it. And I remember watching Pulp Fiction, and I had seen Pulp Fiction, like the cover, the DVD cover on my roommate's shelf a few times. And I'm just like, I don't know, it looks like it's got kind of a 60s, 70s aesthetic. And I don't like the hairstyle of the girl on the cover. And I'm just going to kind of avoid it. I don't even know what the movie's about. Didn't really have any interest. So when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, it's that movie. Yeah. Okay. Let's give this a shot. And, I didn't love it until about 3/4 of the way. Once some dots started connecting, and that's the thing about some Tarantino movies is his movies almost seem disjointed sometimes at first, and like this one, especially Pulp Fiction, and then eventually the dots start to connect, and then it's like, oh, this is a masterpiece. Oh, this is just a really well thought out story that he's taking you on the journey. He's taking you along for the ride. 2.5 hours. Like, buckle up. You're in for a Tarantino experience. And this movie, I think, more than any other, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I was just a kid in 1994 when this movie came out, but I think this is the movie that put Tarantino on the map. Obviously, he did Reservoir Dogs before, but that was like super low budget. I don't know how he got those actors. Like, kudos to Tarantino for whatever magical strings he pulled to get like high-end actors in Reservoir Dogs, but it was obviously a very independent movie, very low budget, and very story dialogue driven, no real special effects or anything else. And so Pulp Fiction, it's almost like this is where he got money, and this is where he's able to like orchestrate an actual Hollywood movie with a Hollywood budget, but with a Tarantino twist. And so that's what I appreciate about this movie. This is like Hollywood being like, okay, you made a pretty awesome movie with Reservoir Dogs. Let's see what you can do with some money. Let's give you some money and see what you can do. See if you can catch lightning in the bottle once again. And so that's what I feel like Pulp Fiction is to me. And at least when I was going through my Tarantino journey, I was like, oh, this is way better than Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs is good, but this is like, it moves a little bit faster. It feels less clunky, I guess, for lack of a better term. It feels more professional, and it feels more, and I don't know, and maybe that's just 2020 hindsight. I don't know how Tarantino felt creating it, but that's a little bit about my introduction. And so this last time watching it, it was actually more enjoyable because I knew which dots were connecting, and so I could kind of have a little bit of foresight and foreknowledge, and it helped make the story a little bit more digestible, help the pacing, honestly, in my own head, because I kind of knew what was coming, but it's been a while since I've seen it. So it was a nice, refreshing look at Pulp Fiction. But I love the movie. I think it's very creative, very unique, very dialogue driven, very Tarantino-esque. And I had a great time watching it the first time. And the first time it kind of blew my mind. This time, instead of blowing my mind, it just helped solidify my appreciation for the movie itself. What'd you guys think?
I'll go ahead and go. Yeah, this movie, I remember my very first time ever seeing this. It was over at a friend's house. I kind of stumbled into this movie. honestly towards the end. And the scene that I saw was and I don't know if we can say it without getting booted off here, but I'll call it the rap scene.
There you go. Nice.
Leave it at that.
Wait, real quick, Brownie. You said, just to be clear, you said you walked into the room and that was the scene, the first scene you saw?
That was my first
Oh,
this movie.
what luck.
I was so uncomfortable. I told myself, I will never watch this movie. This was awful. Like, what is this? And that was my very first that was my very first experience with this movie. So then obviously later on I gave it a whirl again, and I realized what like you said, Bo, what a masterpiece this was. I love a good film that has a lot of moving parts, a lot of character development, and you feel like it's chaos at first, and then it all just comes banding together. Now, watching it this time around, I feel like something I noticed is I noticed the similarities of Guy Ritchie and Quentin Tarantino and how they film is very similar. Especially, I don't know what it is with Pulp Fiction, but I kept on thinking, oh, that seems like a Guy Ritchie shot. Oh, that seemed like a Guy Ritchie thing to do, such as the repeating of words, the awkward silences, the characters where they could just sit there in silence and look at each other, but you know what each other is thinking, scenes like that. And then I'm starting to think, well, is this, was this a Guy Ritchie getting this from Quentin, or, was this completely separate? So anywho, I just thought that was a really interesting connection that I made this time around. But honestly, this movie is just from start to finish, in my opinion, is an absolute riot to watch. I can watch it loads and loads of times and start to see different connections, start to see different interactions with each character. Again, in my opinion, it's a masterpiece.
Chase, give us your thoughts, because I can see Justin's a ticking time bomb, and I feel like he's going to stir up some division. But Chase, you go first.
So I watched this for the first time, I believe, like my freshman year of college or senior year of high school, and probably didn't appreciate it. I was watching it because all my friends were watching it, right? Just getting into that Quentin Tarantino, that and the Kill Bills and what have you. And so I don't think I really appreciated it. I was just trying to be part of the social zeitgeist of people who could talk about Quentin Tarantino. And I think I've watched it one other time, and then I watched it this time. But understanding filmmaking, understanding a lot of the things that go into how Quentin Tarantino even does movies, and then how this movie was so spectacular and different is really interesting. So first off, I think this was one of the strongest portrayals of an out of sequence movie, and I think Quentin Tarantino got pushback on, hey, your story's not linear, and he goes, that's okay. And then you see it a lot more after Pulp Fiction than you do before, especially in blockbusters. And I think Quentin Tarantino set that bar. Another thing, Tarantino's talked about how when he writes characters, he writes the dialogue, but he really writes a book for his movies. He's like, I write everything, who they are, what they're thinking, like what they have for breakfast. Like, he has everything laid out for all of these characters, because you're only going to see 5% of what's actually going on. And then one of my most favorite factoids that I kind of recently found out about this movie is the whole John Travolta, like his whole story, and what kicks off with Mia and everything really comes down to a single question that's asked when he's buying drugs, the H drugs, right? Whatever. And he's there, and the guy goes, "Hey, I'm out of balloons. Is a baggie okay?" And people in drug culture talk about when you buy heroin, it comes in a balloon. When you buy cocaine, it comes in a baggie. And so John Travolta's character knows that the white powder in a baggie in his coat pocket is heroin. Mia thought it was cocaine because the drug culture was cocaine goes in baggies, heroin goes in balloons. And so when she snorts heroin and has an OD, like ODs on it, it's because the drug culture was it's in a baggie, it should be cocaine. And then that sets off this whole kind of sequence of events with John Travolta's character and the adventure that he goes through in that kind of second act of the movie. And I was like, that is wild. And it's all from a single question where the guy goes, "Hey, I'm out of balloons. Is a baggie okay?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's fine," because he's paying attention. He knows what's in it, but somebody else didn't. So, but yeah, really, really interesting. The shots, the intensity of the scenes, even them dancing at that like little weird car hop restaurant, whatever. There's intensity in just about every scene, and I loved it. Where they are hyper focused, dialed in. They're like acting the crap out of every scene, and I very much enjoyed it.
Before we get to Justin derailing these good vibes that we're all having, Chase, that I didn't even think about some of those things that you put. Obviously, I didn't think about the drug thing. That was really a cool factoid. But also what you just said about the intentionality of the acting and what was the word that you used? Not the intentionality, but the
intensity.
The intensity. Yeah, the intensity. Everything was intense, and that's what. I love. That's a great. I'm trying to pinpoint why I like this movie so much, and I think that's one of them. Is everybody? It feels like nobody in this movie is in it for the paycheck. They're all in it to tell the story, to make the movie, and to do like their part and do their best. That was a great observation, Jason. I think that is part of the reason why I'm so drawn to it. What did you think about it, Justin?
Well, sorry,
really quick before you take over, Justin, I want to piggyback off of what Chase said as well, especially about the characters, because with like you said, like Quentin Tarantino, when he writes these, he's writing a novel for these. But also, the respect I feel like we also need to give to Quentin Tarantino is the trust that he has in his actors. Because there are a lot of, you see with Leonardo DiCaprio in this, it was Samuel L. Jackson, that Samuel L. Jackson also took that character and made it his own. I mean, for example, his hair that he decided to go with in there, that was Samuel L. Jackson's idea to have that hair. There's little stuff like that Quentin Tarantino, he's a perfectionist and he has it all written out, but he also trusts his actors enough. And again, like Bo said, they're not in it for a paycheck. He knows he's bringing people on board with this project that are just as passionate as he is about making a work of art. It's not just a film. It's a work of art.
They're in it for the love of the game, man. And I'm sure you guys have all heard that this was Tarantino resurrected John Travolta's career. He was on a trajectory of absolute failure. And Tarantino's like, I love John Travolta. I grew up watching his movies. Like, I've got a role specifically for him, and he resurrected his career through this role. And John Travolta did a phenomenal job. Like, his acting wasn't cheesy. Like, all the stereotypes that was like cratering his career, you don't see that in this movie. Like, he brought his A game. He knew that this was like his second chance, and he took it. And I thought he did phenomenal in this. What did you think, Joseph? Yeah, first of all, Justin, is this your first time watching it, the movie?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Chase, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, like, if you think about, like, each of the scenes, each scene is memorable. And I think it's because of how well acted everything is. First scene about the Royale with cheese and then the like them barging in on breakfast with those kids and then Samuel L. Jackson's kind of monologue quoting inaccurately scripture, right? But there's that. There's the car scene. There's the cleanup of the car, right? Like, every scene is memorable, and it's because each actor gave it their heart and soul. Anyways, I have more to say, but I want to let's let Justin have his piece.
Does anybody else want to say anything at all? Like right now?
Yeah.
Anything.
Here, I'll take it. I'll do my one other cool factoid. John Travolta, he got himself in so much trouble because he was a heroin user. Heroin makes you constipated, and there were multiple times where he went to the bathroom and he was in the bathroom for a really long time because he couldn't take a dump, and that's an effect of shooting heroin. So in the restaurant, he goes to the bathroom for a really long time because he can't take a dump. There's the scene where Bruce Willis's character walks into his apartment. Where's John Travolta? On the pot, because he can't take a dump because he's using heroin. And so like all of these problems that John Travolta runs into are because he's a heroin user. And so again, one of those kind of subtle things that Tarantino's doing is like, hey kids, like heroin's not that great. It's going to ruin your life. You're going to end up dead like John Travolta did with I don't know, like 40 bullets in your chest because heroin makes you constipated and then you can't take a dump.
And you could also monologue in the bathroom. Like, I got to go to the bathroom, and then you monologue to yourself as well. Good. Brownie. Anything else? No more comments? Bo, are you good?
I'm so scared to hear what you have to say. I wish somebody else had more positive things, but no, I'm all done.
Movie was good. I will say, as you guys just gushed over this man crush on Quentin Tarantino and his flawlessness, why were they having breakfast with burgers? Why was that guy in the bathroom the whole time with his pants down? He had a gun and he was making sure that he was going to go out there in a blaze of glory, but he has pants down, couldn't even, why did they have to wait before they stormed in at breakfast time, at brunch, to ruin brunch? Why did they call in the wolf when all he did was what they should have done anyway, which is clean up the car and then drive slowly to a junkyard? As clever as this movie is, like the best scene in the whole movie to me is the adrenaline shot, right? So getting her in, dragging her in, everybody's like, umpteen in the morning, and they're all just trying to figure out what to do, and they're like, yeah, don't come here. And that whole scene was super intense, and I even heard somebody like had a heart attack during that scene. Like, it was so intense for them. Like, hell of a movie that can do that, right? That can trick the mind into really freaking out. Individually, these scenes are very memorable, and that's what Pulp Fiction is, right? It's satire, and it's like take a normal life and then ratchet up to 11, right? Each one of these scenes is like a normal diner, but then you're like, what is the weirdest thing that could happen? Two robbers would just be like, let's try to rob a restaurant, right? And then what if one of your hitmen finally had a conscience? So I get the concept, right? But when you look at the holistic, maybe it's one of those things. It is a movie that altered the way future movies are done. So it's one of those balancing point, like Star Wars for CG and motion capture and sound. They did a whole lot to the whole genre of movies. Gone with the Wind. Pulp Fiction is one of those movies where I can definitely see like the butterfly effect, or maybe it's not that's going back in time. I guess going back in time, you can see the effect it had on the movies, but the movie itself is still very disjointed. It doesn't really, it's like watching a 2.5 hour 4 Seinfeld movies or TV shows about nothing that was just thrown together. Now I understand that it's kind of like a Pulp Fiction magazine was just a bunch of weird stories to pique emotions, and that's what he was trying to do with this movie. For that, I would say it did its job, and it's like a train wreck that you can't look away from, and it makes you feel uncomfortable, and like he pulls out, you know, he's in the pawn shop and he pulls out this and that, a hammer and then a chainsaw, and he's like, what is that? And you're like, I need to know what is on that wall that is better than the chainsaw, right? And he draws you in with those things. But
Also, just to add to that, Justin, what was in the briefcase? They opened it and
Yeah.
it's like some shiny, but you never find out what it is. So yeah,
right, and they never even grab it. Okay, he puts it in his gun, and Samuel L. Jackson puts his gun in the apartment. Vince grabs the black guy, and they go out the door. Nobody grabs the briefcase, but it's suddenly in the car anyway. So it's not a flawless movie. Okay, there's a lot of plot holes all throughout, and I'm like, why? What does that make sense? And like half the stuff that I wanted to know, we just won't get answers to. But overall, at the end of the day, I still like, did my life change good, bad, or whatever after watching the movie? And I'm trying to say yes, but there's nothing of substance that I came away with and going, that's how I want to do something. It is shock and awe, and it's diatribes of pseudo philosophy that, like, when I go back and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ace a trivia question with this movie, but I'm not gonna do much more else with my life. And that's just me personally. So I came away not having like searched my soul. I just felt like in the middle in the GIMP scene, we cool. Let's not talk about this ever again.
let me offer a couple suggestions for some. So all those plot holes that you rattled off at the beginning, I think that, or not really plot holes, but just unanswerable questions, essentially, that the story warrants those questions. As you were saying that, I was like, you know what? That's almost like, because the reason they didn't go in at first, well, that added another 2 to 3 minutes of dialogue between Vince and what was his name? Samuel L. Jackson's character. It added like 2 or 3 more minutes of dialogue, which again, useless conversation in the context of the movie, but interesting to listen to him talk about it and interesting to watch those two phenomenal actors act about it. And so I think what you were rattling off, I was like, you know, that's like saying, why does the steak have seasoning on it? Why is there carrots and mashed potatoes in it? Like, all we need is the meat. Why are you sprinkling all this extra stuff in it? Well, because it makes it more delicious. Like, it makes the movie more delicious when you sprinkle.
No, I would say it's more like the garnish, that green thing that they put on that you put up to the side and you never eat.
Sure. And some people,
that's what I'm saying. It's like,
okay, yeah,
it's that drizzle that you just slide off to the side. I think it's
sure,
lipstick on a pig more than it is, oh my gosh, I need to hear them banter about fake philosophy and fake scriptures. Like, I even looked up Ezekiel 27:15. I'm like, what the? This isn't even the scripture. Like, he just made up some like 5 verses in some unknown Bible, like,
did you check all
conglomerate.
the different versions of the Bible? It could have just been.
I did.
I
Went to Bible.com and I was like, I can't wait. And then I looked it up and I was like, yeah, he just made it up.
And like, it's close, but it's not it. And then it kind of goes off the rail.
Well,
I mean,
it might have been. He might have heard from the
argues.
sermon, and he's paraphrasing of it. You know, there's reasons that could have happened.
I
It could
mean,
be from Black Jesus. I mean, maybe there's a Black Jesus version of the Bible.
I love the Bruce Willis's character. And that's what got me on to, like, who's the best action star ever. I think Bruce Willis is in the conversation, top 5 for sure, because every time he was on this screen, I was invested more than any other character. Vince was like, here's the reason why everything went wrong. You pointed that out correctly. Everything that went wrong in this movie was like his hand in it. And he was even in the shot in the very beginning of the movie. He's the one that's walking past the girl as she's talking with her robber boyfriend. You can see him. That was pointed out to me when I was looking into it. I didn't. find out at the first point. But
Brownie,
so
what
it was definitely connected.
yeah. Well, and so another thing I was gonna, so whether it's garnish, whether it's the the leaf or whatever, I just think what Tarantino is good at is I almost view Tarantino as like the polar opposite of Christopher Nolan. And I was telling you guys this the other day on Marco Polo, but one thing that kind of bothers me about Christopher Nolan is he's so efficient, it almost eats into the enjoyment of the movie. Like the way that he edits his movies, it's like there's not a second he wastes. The moment somebody's word finishes, he's cutting, moving on to the next scene. Whereas Tarantino like lets you simmer, he lets you soak, lets you marinate in scenes. He takes it slow.
They dance for minutes. Yeah, they dance for minutes. And she's like, can't you love somebody when there's that awkward silence and you can just live in it? That's great. And then they proceed to dance for 3 minutes to the 50.
And so, and also Tarantino is the master, and this is an epiphany that just came to me when I was watching it, Pulp Fiction this time. But I think he's the master of, how did I put it? Give me a second. Extreme opposites. Hold on, there's a better way to put it. Shoot.
Dichotomy?
No, it's extremes of shoot. How did I put it? He does a really good job at like contrast. That's what it is. That's the word I was looking at. He's really good at contrast because most movies, like if there's a top and a bottom, they kind of hover in the middle, whether it's an action, romance, drama, whatever it is, they kind of hover in the middle. Tarantino's so good at contrast because he will keep you in a dry monologue driven scene where it's just close-up shots of people's faces, and he'll do that for like 6 minutes. And just he'll almost intentionally bore you so that when the explosion happens at the end of the scene, whether it's a gunshot or explosion or a drug overdose, whatever it is, it rattles you. It shocks you out of that stupor. That's what he's the master of. And so all these long drawn out monologues and close-ups, and why are they taking so long to kick down the door? Why are they eating a burger? Why are they talking about the burger? Why are they mentioning the restaurant? Why is he quoting a scripture? All of that is just to bore you. It's to keep you glued, and you're like, what's the point of this? Like, that is his intention, is exactly your question. It's like, why all this fluff? Why all this stuff? Why all the garnish on the steak? That is his intention because he's setting up the drastic contrast that he wants at the end of the scene, whatever that ends up being. And that's what Tarantino's a master of. And you can see it all throughout his movies. And so whenever I'm bored in a Tarantino movie, or whenever I find myself asking, where is this going? Or what am I supposed to be getting from this? I always put myself in check, and I'm like, wait for it. There's going to be a payoff. There always is. And that's true with Kill Bill. That's true with Inglourious Basterds. That's true with Django Unchained. That's true with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All of his movies do that. And so you can't, like, at least me, I don't think it's a fair criticism to judge his movies negatively for when we get caught up in those otherwise, what are we doing here kind of moments.
Watching one of his films is like going into a fun house. You think you're walking straight, and then you just hit a mirror and there's nothing there. You could open up a door, and that's not the right door. You got to go to a different door. And so he leaves all of these things just open-ended. And if anything, I think it makes you focus more on the dialogue and maybe what he's trying to get after. And so it makes you almost like both said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you hyper focus on what he is trying to get to. That's how I view it. It's a fun house.
Yeah, it's a great description. A great comparison, Brownie.
Just something that jogged my memory when you said this reminded you a lot of Guy Ritchie. I feel like this movie reminded me a lot of Snatch and how it all came together at the end.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for that. And when it didn't happen for me, that's when I felt the letdown. Like, as far as Guy Ritchie was concerned, I feel like he stuck the landing, and it was like, oh my gosh, holy cow, mind blowing. Whereas this one was more like, okay, all right, $1,500 so I don't kill you. It's memorable, but not necessarily good. Does that make sense? It's like, I can understand why this is a cult classic, that genre shifting movie, you know, it was not done your traditional way. I can see all that. But at the end of the day, movies are supposed to make you feel something or do something or question something. And it's just a bunch of white noise to me at the end when everything came together. I'm like, yeah, they're at the restaurant, you know, and okay, that. But, you know, he says, Samuel L. Jackson says, you know, don't blaspheme, right, in the car. And then when they're cleaning out the blood, he says, GD. It's like, did you learn nothing? I don't get it. Like, your dialogue is supposed to be smarter than this, and I shouldn't be noticing. I'm going to say easy layups. So in the end, if I were to watch this movie again, what I would gain is, okay, don't do drugs, which I already knew. And yeah, that's a really cool story, that the balloons versus the baggies. But at the same time, I don't need that for my life. Most people don't need that for this, but it's for shock and awe. And to me, it's more cheap thrills than it is sustenance. Does that make sense?
I wouldn't call them cheap, but I agree that it is for the thrills. And as you were saying that, contrasting it with Guy Ritchie movies, Guy Ritchie's looking for like the slam dunk climactic ending that oohs and ahs. That's his thing, and he's so good at that. Quentin Tarantino, I feel like he's not so much focused on a grand finale as he is a grand story. Just like the endings to his movies are all, I mean, there's a couple where there's a grand finale here and there, but most of them kind of end just like, okay, that's it. But the journey was his focus. His focus isn't on the end. His focus is on the characters, the dialogue, the cinematography, the like weird happenstance, like Chase was saying with the baggie and the balloon. Also, like, what are the chances that, you know, a gangster and a boxer getting in a life or death fist fight in a pawn shop that just so happens to have a sex dungeon underneath? Like, obviously that's unrealistic, but what's interesting about it is that it's interesting. You know what I mean? Like, what's interesting about it is that it's interesting. You know, it's like, what if that actually happened? Jeez, talk about nightmare fuel. That is like everybody's worst nightmare, that like something completely unexpected. Like, you're already like your senses are completely redlining, heightened. You're about to shoot a guy in the face, and then this guy pulls out a shotgun. You're like, okay, fine. Like, we'll de-escalate. No, it doesn't de-escalate. It hyper escalates after that. Like, is that not interesting? And look, like, yeah, what lesson am I gonna take from that? Nothing. There's no lesson. Like, do you literally, like, do you plug yourself into every mode of entertainment to like better yourself? I don't. Sometimes you just want to sit back and like watch an entertaining story, and that's what Tarantino does. He provides you an entertaining story with entertaining dialogue that doesn't make a lot of sense, but boy, is it interesting. Boy, does it glue you in. Like, that's his point. And that's what I take away from this movie, is it's just like, it's fiction. I'm not going to be like, oh, that's so unrealistic, or, oh, I would never do that. Well, like, what am I going to get from this? No, like, sit back and watch the story. That's his whole, that's why he makes movies, is for stories. And so, like, just receive what he gives you, and it's a really good movie. That's the way
I did. I received the story. I just don't feel like watching it again and again and again. It doesn't.
I wouldn't either.
I know. And I'm not saying that you know, I'm a better person or you're a lesser person if you do like it. It just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
And well, I'm telling you, I liked everybody's performance. It was acted well. It was shot. It was cool to see different ways to view the plot, you know, and non-linear. He uses kind of like James Gunn, he uses a lot of older, less known tunes as a backdrop for his, you know, intense scenes, right? So to make them less gory, or like maybe you trick your brain so you're seeing something really horrible, but it's also got a catchy tune behind it. And then he also has a bunch of nods to the 70s samurai slash. That's why the sword is there. And that's why in the cab ride, you see the 1960s slide in the back of the cab, you know, because he's paying homage to the movies that he liked. I get all that. And there were points of the movie that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But as a whole, as a general rule, the whole 2.5 hours, maybe just I need 3 to 5 minute clips of the movie, and that I'll find that enjoyable rather than a whole sit down 2.5 hours watching your whole thing. I just felt doldrums.
Yeah. So Justin, it's interesting because what it is right. So the cover art for the movie is like a magazine because it's based off of pulp magazines, which were these like raunchy, beat 'em up, whatever type stories. And it that's what he's trying to do.
I understand that.
Yeah, those type of movies existed, but they were always like not even B movies. They were like C movies. They were really crappy movies that were done in the 60s and 70s to kind of mimic that. Here's another example. There's a movie called Heavy Metal that came out in like 1987, 85, right, like mid 80s, based off of the Heavy Metal magazine, which was these kind of sexy, raunchy metal stories, which is where like they just really leaned into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And then they're like, hey, what if we made a movie that kind of told some of these stories that are being published in this heavy metal magazine? And right, and that's what it was. And I feel like that's what Tarantino did is he's like, these were some really interesting stories and nobody's doing them justice. I have a Hollywood budget. Let me make an interesting story based off of these pulp magazines and what was it like these crime novellas where it's not super fantastic. Like they're not, they're not going to win any like literary prize, but it's an interesting story. And that's what he was trying to do. So anyways, I go, he's just trying to take cool stories that never had a chance and give them a voice.
Can I offer just a couple of my critiques? Because I do have some things that I didn't like as well. And I wanted to hear Justin's first, but he actually didn't touch on mine. So I'm going to touch on just a couple things. You know what, to me, the worst part about this movie was Tarantino. For being a Tarantino movie, he was awesome at directing. He was awesome. Like all of that encompasses the cinematography, the writing. Like he's awesome. He's not a good actor though. He sucks at acting. Boy, his character Jimmy or whatever, like it almost like it took me out of the movie. I'm just like, it sounds like a high school like theater kid is trying to play in a movie. Like his lines were so overly memorized. And yeah, Justin, you just commented another thing I noticed is almost like his excuse to just use the N-word as much as he possibly could, because it's like, hey, it's a movie, it's a script, it's fiction, I can say it. But he's not a good actor. And what was the guy's name? Wolf? Is that what you called him? The guy came to clean up the mess. And then Tarantino's character just like completely shifted into like, this.
I'll listen to everything you say.
What was that?
I'll listen to everything you say.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just, I don't know. His character was inconsistent.
Let's hose him off in the backyard.
Yeah, his lines weren't delivered very well. He was like shouting when he shouldn't have been. I don't know. He's just not a good actor. Like you can tell he hasn't been trained in acting. I mean, he wasn't bad in Django, but he had a very small role in Django. But this one was like so dialogue heavy. I'm like, geez, man, give that role to someone else, someone who can act. That was terrible. Like it was just ironic that the worst part of a Tarantino movie was Tarantino being in it. Like if he's such a masterful filmmaker, couldn't he see that? Like, stay in your lane. Can't you see? Like, what good acting looks like, and that's not it. Can you not see that you're not good at that? At least in my opinion. I don't know what you guys felt about that. But that was one thing. And this is honestly the last thing I have to say about the movie. And then you guys can say whatever you want before we cast our votes. But the other thing that I didn't like, obviously the elephant in the room, is just the uncomfortable, disgusting nature of that freaking rap scene that Brownie alluded to earlier. That Brownie, unfortunately, that's his first introduction to Pulp Fiction and Tarantino, was watching a black man getting graped essentially, and like it's so uncomfortable. I turned my eyes away the first time I watched that, turned my eyes away again this time. I had to like look down, just like I don't need to see that. Like it's just gross. It like grosses me out. However, that one I can justify because of what I was saying earlier about contrast. As a matter of fact, this is what gave me the epiphany that Quentin Tarantino is the master of contrasts in his movies, because I can't think, like, there are very few things, without going completely X-rated, demonic, absolutely off the rails, disgusting, like for an R-rated movie that's pretty mainstream that a lot of people are going to be seeing, this is pretty much the most disgusting, nightmarish, scary, uncomfortable, queasy, just nobody likes seeing that. Nobody likes thinking about it because it wasn't consensual. They were captured. They were brought into a basement. Like it really is just the nightmare of any sane person to be put in that situation. But again, so I didn't like that. However, I don't think I would change it because being the master of contrast that Tarantino is, he knew that he had to get us to that low point, as low as he could possibly go with that scene without making it X-rated or like completely off the rails, unhinged, unrealistic, whatever. He brought us to that lowest point, like the noises on the other side of the door, the guy wrapped in latex. It's so uncomfortable, so gross, so queasy. It's just like, again, masterfully done. If you're trying to get your audience to be disgusted and absolutely like riddled with this nightmare fuel that is going to haunt your mind for the near future. But the contrast is Bruce Willis going up there, looking at the hammer, looking at the baseball bat, the chainsaw, grabbing the katana, almost walking out, and then you see like his face and no words. And like kudos to Tarantino for not having him like talk to himself, which just gives unnecessary exposition to us, the audience. You can see it in Bruce Willis's face where he almost like looks down and he's like, his face is saying, I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. Like, I know this guy wants to kill me, but this is like, nobody deserves that. And that's what makes him turn around. And I thought that that was so cool. And then, of course, he takes the katana and he saves the day, which makes that all the more satisfying because of how low he brought you. Now the high seems extra high. And then, you know, when the guy blasts his rapist right in the nuts with a shotgun, you're like, ooh, that feels good to see. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's what Tarantino does best, is he brings you down to the lowest low so that he can accelerate you to the highest high. And I thought that was masterfully done as much as I disliked it.
And to piggyback on that, think about it. Like Bruce Willis is known for doing those self-talk, like exposition. Come on, man, you got to do it. It's the right thing to do, right? Like that would have been
that was like 20% of Die Hard was just him talking to himself.
Talking to himself. And so you could have had it where yeah. Right. And so you could have had it happen, but right. He, you know, the character was written to just do that. But then if you also think about it, that character, how is he going to resolve it with Marcellus? Like the resolution between them was Marcellus dies, he dies, or right, something else. And I think that's where he was, where he's like, I'm going to be on the run for the rest of my life, or I could finish this right now. And he was on guard up until he's like, hey, we good? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna, this guy's gonna wish he was dead. He's done. No, like you and me, are we good? He goes, yeah, 2 conditions. You never come back to LA. Like you don't come back to LA and you never talk about it. He goes, okay. And then he leaves. And so you had resolution. So like, every storyline in that, like every plot point in that movie was resolved. Every one of them. And so,
Justin, you're telling me you didn't feel anything, like you didn't come away from that scene with any sort of like, wow, glad that got handled the way that it did.
Maybe I just need to double check my pawn shop owners to see if they have a guy trapped in a lockbox dressed in latex in their basement.
No, like I said, like, you wanted to know what was on the wall that got his attention. It was a sword, again. And it was one of those subverting expectations in a good way where, like you said, Marcellus had him on a hit list, and then he thought he took him out, and then he was getting shot by him, and, and then he had the gun on him. So they almost killed each other like twice, right? And then they both go to that the worst place imaginable, and they both come out, and they're both like, truce. All right, deuces. Yeah, but at the same time, I go, let's not talk about it anymore.
Let me guess. You were like, oh, well, I'm never going to find myself in the basement of a pawn shop tied to a chair and ball gagged to the mouth. So I don't understand why I should appreciate this scene. Let me guess. That's what you were thinking, isn't it? Isn't it, Justin?
I was thinking, I never want to get a chopper or have red food coloring or a ball gag or any of that. And the gimp was pretty gimpy because he didn't do anything, like anything.
Tried to warn him about that left hook, man, from a professional boxer. And yeah. And then
Brownie.
Justin, sorry, to answer your first question, are you telling me you've never had pizza for breakfast? Pizza's
No, I
not a
don't do that.
breakfast food.
I don't do that. And I never, dude, before 10 a.m., you go to the breakfast menu at McDonald's, okay?
No, they
You
went
don't
to
get
the
a
Big Kahuna burger.
You don't get a big kahuna. Yeah. How about this? Check out the brain on Brad. His name was Brett. Why do you call him Brad? Huh? Knew the script so well.
Justin, I feel like 50% of these conversations is us just teaching you how to properly watch movies. It's just something about the way you watch movies. I'm just like, I don't understand you and you don't understand me. And we're trying to like find some sort of connection here. And it's very difficult. You make it very difficult for me, Justin. Trying hard here.
I appreciate that.
Brownie, I have one more question for you, and then anything else you want to say before we cast our votes. So you walked in on that scene. Did you sit through it to see the resolution, or did you just see a big black guy's bare butt and you turned around and you're like, I don't ever want to watch that again? Did you actually see that?
I was out of there. You already know. You already know how I feel about grape scenes. They are the most uncomfortable, let alone guy on guy action. I was gone. I said, no, that's not for me. You know, I'll go stand outside.
Man, that sucks even more. Not only were you scarred with that uncomfortable, disgusting scene, but you didn't even get to see the payoff.
Oh no. But again, I'm happy that I did, and I'm happy that I was convinced to watch it from start to finish. Because then, like you said, that contrasting between the dark and then all of a sudden the reward at the end. If I would have already known the reward, I would, why am I watching this movie? So, yeah.
Cool. Should we move to the votes? Anybody else have anything to say? We're good? All right. I'll go first. Gosh. Again, like I said on our last discussion, I really want to maintain the sanctity of the perfect badge. I think that Quentin Tarantino has at least one perfect movie. And I haven't even decided which one that is, but this one, Pulp Fiction, watching it with the intent to determine its perfection, I am leaning no, because really the big glaring thing for me is Tarantino's character. He ruined the movie for me, and he ruined the movie's perfection for me. The movie's still great, obviously, like all these movies are, but I couldn't. That scene, I kept being like, okay, can I offer it grace? Like, can I weasel my way into being convinced that this is okay? But that, I mean, what was it? 10, 15 minutes of him being in the movie. Like, his character was inconsistent. It was very poorly acted. I was embarrassed for him. I was like, I can't believe he was on the edit room cutting floor and was like, yeah, we'll keep this in. Yeah, this is good. Like, I thought it was terrible. And so for that reason, just that one little segment, it just dinged its perfection enough for me to have to vote no. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree with you. His performance was just abysmal. But I'm leaning on the opposite side, and I am going to go with that it is a perfect movie. I don't think it was so awful that it would take away from all the other aspects of the movie for me. So I'm going perfect.
Fair enough. Jace? Chase fell asleep on us. It's East
No,
Coast.
I was thinking. Yeah, sorry, and then trying to find my freaking unmute button. Yeah. So, man, yeah. See, I feel like for what it was, it's perfect. And I don't think there have been other attempts. I know. Oh, who was it? Grindhouse. I never saw it, but like that was another attempt to do a pulp like movie. And it had who's that scary Mexican dude? Real life, like,
Danny?
yeah, Danny Trejo. Yeah, like right, and again, like I get it. And I've seen bits and pieces of it, but like that was kind of trying to do the same thing of the pulp and the pulp magazine and the hardcore and all this stuff. But I just don't think anybody else has been able to do it as well as this movie was done. I mean, Bo, I'm with you. I think there are better movies that Quentin Tarantino has done. I can think of one right off the top of my head that I'm not going to say because it might get nominated at some point in the future. But I'm going to give it a yes vote because I think it was, even though it had the kind of wrongness with Tarantino himself, I think the rest of it made up for it because it nailed perfectly what it was trying to do.
Yeah, and to be fair, his scene, my gripe with his scene is his delivery. I honestly think that dialogue, I mean, maybe ease up on the N-word a little bit, but the dialogue was purposeful for the story and for the movie. If it was another actor, that would have done it for me, but it's just the delivery, man. It's so imperfect. Blemish the perfection. What did you think, Justin?
Oh, it was definitely a good movie. Boy, I wonder what I'm gonna pick. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Nice,
Sorry,
dude.
I just had to.
Oh, respect, man. I love that callback.
It is not, and it's one of those weird things where I can see the craft, I can see the genre shift, I can see a lot of those things, but I think Snatch did it better, and that was just kind of on the cusp. And so if I was just barely on the this is lesser of a movie than that than Snatch, and so for those reasons, I'm out. No.
All right, Mr. Shark Tank. Cool. So it's 2-2. I guess we'll have to right? Did I count that right?
3-2. Zane's a yes vote.
Oh, that's right, Zane. You're right. Yeah, Zane's a yes. So 3-2. So we'll get the votes from the other guys. And Justin, you're nominating our next potentially perfect movie. Choose.
I wish I had more time. I did. Chase,
You had
16
weeks, man.
I know. But it's like, man, you guys are okay.
I have a list of 9 movies ready to go. Written down.
I have them.
Okay.
Do you want me to list all 17 of them?
Don't you dare, Justin. Not again.
No.
Not again.
Okay, this is where my movies are. I can put them down here in this corner. And this is where you guys like to be, okay? And so I'm trying to figure out if I can get any one of these into meeting any one of these, and maybe we can meet in the middle here. So I've got 2015, 2014, 2011, 1999. I've done 2 of them have been 1960s, and then one in 1995, right? Should I do one that you guys were actually born in? And I say you, I mean the collective whole you. What do you guys think? Do you think I should go?
Let's do the 2011 one. That one's got me curious. Because 1999, I mean, that's the
Okay.
who's who of great movies. But 2011,
Oh, boy.
what movie could that be?
Oh boy. Is it okay to do series?
Like multiple movies, or like a movie in the middle of a?
It's a movie in a franchise, but it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
almost
Because we did Alien 3, and as part of the Alien 3 discussion, we did Alien 1 and 2. I know that was our David Fincher deep dive, but
David Fincher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also, I remember I had a debate with Alan at one point as to whether like movies that have an unresolved ending can be perfect, and we settled, if I remember right, we settled on, like, for example, Empire Strikes Back. That's in the middle of a trilogy, and
But it
everybody
is
agrees that's
still
like the best movie. And so, yeah, I definitely think that you can, like, we just look at the contained movie, despite what happened before or after.
in this one. I would say this one is a contained movie. So in 2011, Harry Potter 8 came out. Moneyball was in theaters. But do you want to do 2011? It is a series instead of a standalone movie.
If it's
is it
Harry Potter,
8?
I will slit my wrists.
No, I said that's what happened in 2011.
Okay. So yeah, to do it. Let's do 2011.
Bill loves Harry Potter movies.
I know. As a matter of fact, I hope somebody picks a Harry Potter movie. I've been itching to knock those things down, officially recorded.
This movie, it's I think it still holds up. It has some of the coolest real life things that happen. One of the coolest storylines I've ever, and I mean, I think this is perfect in almost every way.
I'm totally kidding, Justin. I'm sorry.
Land the plane. That's
what Drew said the last time you picked one, and you were going for like 8 minutes of like, okay, like just dangling the carrot. And Drew's like, land the plane, Justin, just land.
Yeah, I have to do it because I have to tease you.
I know, I'm just kidding.
You know, everybody else just says it. Okay. I think it's
Justin,
right?
it's 11:50. Choose the movie.
It's we still got 10 minutes before tomorrow. I think it's Brian Bird is the director. Brad Bird. The movie is Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a good one. Okay, I like it.
I think
it. Mission Impossible movie. Yeah,
I think it may be even better than Fallout. And I haven't seen the last Mission Impossible 8 yet, but
you think it's better than 3?
I think it's better than 3.
You think it's better than 2?
Absolutely. Number 1 is still great. Number 4, I think, is the best in the series as a standalone. I know it's part of the whole, but the whole thing. Anyway,
love it.
You said Ghost Protocol?
Yeah, Ghost Protocol.
Ghost Protocol.
All right, Justin. Great nomination. Thank you, boys, for joining. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Love you, dudes.